Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is VIN 2370, and this came at special request from a viewer. He had emailed me and asked me to do a deep dive on his car. And so I don't know if he's planning to sell it or what the plan is, but I'm gonna go ahead and do the deep dive so we can get this information out there. So this is a 2017 083, which is ultra white, with LA30 interior, which is the red interior with the standard carbon fiber trim. And as I said, it's requested by a viewer. So he bought this car, it looks like in June of 2025. Here it is at the end of October 2025. It was listed for $40,000 with 125,000 miles in the Chicago area, but it's a California and Texas car most of its life, and it looks like the Texas owner moved to Illinois in late 2024, but now the car is in Indiana by the current owner. And he tells me that he paid $37,000 for it. So he got it $3,000 less than listing price. So $37,000 for a 2017 with 125,000 miles. That's a phenomenal price. Production statistics are 648 out of the 2,348 cars for the US 49 that were 083 ultra white, white with gold flake. Of those, 360 had the LA30 red interior, which is the most common color combination that exists on these cars. White with red, second most is white with black. Specific for 2017, there were 116 out of the 342 cars produced that were ultra white, which is 34% for the year, and 64 of them had LA30 interior. So this car is one of 64 at its rarest. As far as GSFs goes, that's pretty common. The rarer ones are gonna be like 1 of 8, 1 of 16, 1 of 30, something like that, but 1 of 64. Still a cool car nonetheless, but anyways, that's the production. Carfax, Epic VIN, and AutoCheck. So Carfax shows this as a 3-owner, no accident car. Epic VIN shows this as a 2-owner, no accident car. And AutoCheck shows this as a 2-owner, no accident car. And I think what happened was the owner moved. So Epic VIN, I've seen do that, and Carfax as well. You can get that corrected if it's really a big deal. You can go to Carfax and they have a link where you can report errors or correct things. As long as you can prove it to them, they will correct it. So I think it's safe to assume that this is a 2-owner, no accident car. I don't think it's a 3-owner. So that's with including the current owner who just bought it in June of 2025. It is one of the less than 1,000 cars that exist in the US 49 that are still accident-free. Clean title, no accident. So this is one of those cars. Previous sales, May of 2017 in Cerritos, California, $89,000. Still for sale in September of 17, now with 1,700 miles, and it looks like it finally sold in April of 2018. So this car sat around for sale for 11 months. From when it was listed to when it sold to its first owner. Not uncommon to see for these cars. These cars sometimes sat around as long as 2 years because the dealers didn't want to discount them. And the market had spoken. These cars, when they were new, they sold at like $70,000 to $75,000, not the original $90,000+ when they were new. So if you adjust that for inflation today, here in October of 2025, that $90,000 price when it was new at the end of 2015, that's about $120,000 in today's money. So can you imagine walking into a Lexus dealer and paying $120,000 for one of these cars? That's what it felt like back in the end of 2015. The next time this car was listed for sale, as I talked about, June 2025 in Chicago, 125,000 miles at McGrath Lexus. $40,000 is what it was listed for, and he paid $37,000 for it. So fantastic price, getting it at that. These cars seem to be pretty mileage sensitive when it comes to 100,000+ miles. And so the price starts to go down pretty quick when you get above 80 to 100,000 miles. And so this is no exception. So looking back at the market price in June of 2025, this car was probably like a mid to low 40s car with this kind of mileage. And he paid $37,000. So I think the owner that bought this, he stole this car at $37,000. Fantastic price. And so I'm not clear if he's wanting to sell this pretty soon, but again, I'm just getting the information out there. So he sent me some photos, he emailed me some photos. It does have the usual carbon fiber delamination. No surprise to anyone there. They're just starting the front 5 pieces. You're gonna have to eventually replace all 5 of those, replace or refinish. You know, there is SMA fabrication in Florida. I have a discount code, ALLTHINGSF. You get 10% off your entire order. I don't make a dime from it. I'm just helping out a small business, not a sponsor, anything like that. Looking at the exterior, I see a little bit of battle damage on the front corners of the bumper. That's pretty common for a car that if you drive it in the city, park it where the curbs are high. I know in Chicago, that's definitely the case, but some refinishing. If you're going to make it perfect, some refinishing would be appropriate on the front bumper. Get the front bumper refinished, if you will. Maybe a little bit of curb rash on the wheels. Again, pretty evident that this car's probably seen a city parking job or two, but I don't see any worries there. It's definitely a driver quality car, as you would expect, but it's definitely one to just jump in and go drive, go enjoy it, and it looks like that's what this current owner is doing. Service history. So it's also a pretty well-serviced car done at the dealer. The first entry of note is March of 2018, the JLB recall was done. That's the high-pressure fuel pumps. November of 2018, 22,000 miles, front brakes were done, and they even put a price there. $1,154 is what it cost at the dealer to get the front brakes done in 2018. January of 2019, they noted buff out scratches and the steering wheel was off center due to being towed out of the snow. So I don't know if this car was winter driven much or not, but there was obviously something that went on there where it was towed out of the snow. A couple days later, they hit a pothole and they also needed an alignment and a tire. So that was done. March of 2020, 40,000 miles, rear brakes. Pretty much in line with what you'd expect for normal driving for this car. 40 to 50,000 for the rear brakes, 20 to 30,000 for the front brakes. So that's the case here. October of 2020 at 50,000 miles, the front brakes. So that's 28,000 miles between changes for the front brakes. Again, pretty in line with what you'd expect. March of 2021 at 64,000 miles, the dealer recommended the 60,000 mile service and it was not done. 60,000 mile service is the transmission and or the differential. Sometimes they say inspect it, but that's the spark plugs, all the fluids, brake fluid, everything else. It's kind of an in-depth inspection. And at the dealer, that can run in excess of $2,000. It was not done here, but they did get rear tires and an alignment. December of 2021 at 85,000 miles, the transmission service was done. So good to see that that's done. Probably a little bit later than I would like to see, but it's done. Again, front and rear rotors done. So if you're keeping track, that's 45,000 miles on the rear rotors that time and 35,000 on the front. So again, pretty in line with what you would expect. I don't think it's like been tracked or anything like that. April of 2023 at 101,000 miles, front and rear pads and rotors. Yet again, that's only 16,000 miles and brake fluid. So that's the last time the brakes have been done on this car. So if this car is approaching 130,000 miles, probably expect to do front brakes again pretty soon. June of 2025, looks like they were doing either a pre-purchase inspection or the dealer was having it inspected before it went up for sale. And that was at 129,000 miles and an oil change. September of 2025, which is the last service, likely done by this current owner, just a key fob reprogram. What do I see that is not done? The carbon fiber delamination, none of it was replaced at the dealer. So expect carbon fiber replacement, which is obviously what is going on here, replacement or refinishing. Lower control arm bushings, front lower control arm bushings, I don't see anything about those being done. That causes inner front tire wear. So if you're gonna look at this car, look at the insides of the front tires, see if you see any excessive wear. If you do, it probably needs front lower control arm bushings. And if you're a DIYer, you can do those yourself. Not very expensive, and the parts are a couple $100s. The ZLZ customer service program, it is the cracked, deforming, delaminating, or sticky dash. And it's covered from 10 years from the in-service date of this car. So this car you've probably got a little bit more time on it, maybe another year until that's gonna be an issue. But Lexus will replace your dash free of charge under this program if it exhibits any of those signs, specifically the deforming, cracking, or the stickiness. And I had it done on my car. It was sticky and they replaced it. The HVAC servo sweep, don't see that done. So if you're looking at this car, if it comes up for sale, set one side to max hot, the other side to max cold, cycle through the defrost, the head, the feet, the vents, or the rear, and then switch. Make sure everything responds like it should. And if you do have a fancy scanner, you can plug it into the OBD2 port and check for codes. There are codes that start with a B, and it will have several codes, a 4-digit number after that, if there's some issues with the servos malfunctioning. And some of them can be replaced without the dash being pulled. Some of them, you have to pull the dash, and that's where it can get very expensive. And so for example, if you go back and do the ZLZ program, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and get those servos replaced. It's a few $100s parts-wise, but it would save you thousands in the long run. The valley plate, don't see anything about the valley plate being done. So the 2016s are due for a lot of this being done, just coming with time and heat cycles. 2017s, I've seen a few of them already getting done. This car having more mileage, probably more heat cycles, that I would expect. I would not be surprised if the valley plate begins to start leaking. A lot of people just wait until it gets so bad where you either start smelling it or your coolant overflow bottle, you start seeing it empty. That's because it's all sitting underneath your intake manifold leaking. Or you wait until it's leaking so bad it starts leaking on the ground. But there are things like that need to be addressed, and it is an expensive replacement because it's very labor intensive. You have to remove all 16 of the fuel injectors. You have to remove everything that's attached to the upper intake manifold. There's a lot that's involved into doing it. It's only a couple $100s in parts, but it's like over $1,000 in labor. If you have it done at an independent mechanic, if you have it done at the dealer, it's in excess of $2,000. So this being a 2017, the 2017 through 2020s had the adaptive damping shocks. They had defective oil seals on some of them from even brand new. When they had 15 miles on them, they were leaking at the dealer, and they're known to leak, they're prone to leak. Some of them go 100+ miles without leaking, but there's many others that it's usually around the 30 to 40,000 mile mark, you start seeing them leak. And so there's none of those have been replaced at the dealer. They may have been replaced third-party independent mechanic, but if you're looking at this car, go look at the shocks. I would not be surprised to see them leaking at all. That 60,000 mile service, that was declined. So that means the spark plugs weren't done at 60,000. The 120,000 mile service wasn't done either. So this car, I would highly recommend replacing the spark plugs. They haven't been done yet, according to the service history. Replace the spark plugs, and I would get the differential serviced. I don't see the differential serviced at all. And so the TVD has 3 things that you have to drain and fill. There's torque vectoring modules on each side of the differential. Those use automatic transmission fluid, and then the differential itself, which uses gear oil. So the TVD, torque vectoring differential, it needs to get serviced. The transmission was done at 85,000 miles. I would probably recommend doing that again. Probably not just a drain and fill. I would do the drop the pan, replace the filter, and do the full 3 gallons of transmission fluid replacement that way. So that's not inexpensive. Just the fluid itself is almost $200, and the filter is like $50. And if you can do it yourself if you're mechanically inclined, but at the dealer, they're going to probably charge you $500-600 to do that. So finally, would I buy this car? Yeah, I think it's something I would consider. You have to remember, it's one of the less than 1,000 that exist that are still accident-free. It had some kind of incident there on the service history. You can see it was towed out of the snow, so maybe a little bit winter driven, but it was in California and Texas, so I don't know if it was in the mountains of California where they get snow. I'm not sure, but just inspect that, inspect the valley plate, look at the lower control arm bushings. You're going to be replacing or refinishing carbon fiber. The service would be the big thing for me. It needs to be caught up. Spark plugs, differential, transmission, probably belts and hoses, just kind of the usual things. At this kind of mileage, I would start looking at water pumps too. The water pumps, you start getting beyond 100,000 miles, start looking at replacement. They have a little weep hole that is underneath them, so you can basically see when it starts leaking, if it's time to replace it. That would be another thing that I would do for a pre-purchase inspection. But yeah, I think, so the owner paying $37,000, there was one that was recently sold, VIN 309. If you could look back a couple episodes, it's the ultrasonic blue mica car. That one had 145,000 miles, and it was being sold for $34,000, and it popped up at a dealer and it sold for $29,000, which I think is low. But I think that if I were to put a price on this car right now with 130,000 miles on it, I would say probably like mid 30s, mid to upper, like 30, 35, 37, kind of like right where he paid for it. Would probably be where the market is for this car right now. And so I think that it's just catch it up on service, and then it would probably be pretty good to go. It's not going to be a collector car. It's going to be a driver quality car. So if you want a lower cost of entry into GSF ownership, this is definitely the right car. Get in it, get the service caught up to date, and go enjoy it. And that's what I would do. So anyway, this is VIN 2370. Oh yeah, and inspect the shocks. This is VIN 2370. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.